and welcome back to BookTube with Amy. Today is going to be my most recent weekly wrap up. I was like adamant that I was coming home and putting on like a full face and making myself look glam AF to film this video, because I feel like I've been in my jammies or cosy jumpers for about October. So I was like, I'm going to make an effort, and then was opening the shop this morning, came home from work, was like, no a chance. Like, cosy jumper because it's freezing, blanket, and we're just gonna chat. So it is what it is. So the first book I want to talk to you guys about is Real Murders by Charlene Harris. I read this as the first book in the Into the Library read along that I'm hosting with Ange from Angie's Book Chatter. This is my first time ever reading this series. Obviously the Suki Stackhouse books were a bit of a reread. So this is a cosy mystery series that is set in a wee town, and our main character Aurora is a librarian who also is part of a group called the Real Murders group, and they talk about real murder. I guess they are true crime enthusiasts, and the time that this was written, like, that wasn't really a done thing, whereas now everybody and their dog has a true crime podcast that they listen to. You know, we are quite into true crime these days, so it was really interesting. I really enjoyed this book. I am not going to say too much about it because we're going to have a live show, and the first live show is going to be over on Angie's channel, so keep a wee check on her community tab for the announcement for that. I really had a fun time with this. It was, like it says in the tin, a really nice cosy mystery. The writing in here was good. I really enjoyed it because it was Charlene Harris. However, you can tell that her writing has definitely evolved, going from Suki to this, which is a wee bit of an older release for her. But I think I'm going to enjoy it. Overall, I had a really good time. This was a 5-star read for me, and it was a great start to the series. I can't wait for the next one. Then, like the rest of the world, I picked up Spare by Prince Harry. And I don't normally read non-fiction, everybody knows that. Like, I am not a non-fiction reader by any means. But I was interested to pick this one up. And I think that this book is actually, I felt that all the media and all the hype surrounding it is quite interesting, because I think that in the UK specifically, I can't talk for anywhere else in the world, but depending on your views on the royal family and your views on the monarchy, sort of helps shape your view on Prince Harry, one way or the other. And so I just think that that is quite interesting to observe, and seeing how much people's personal politics and opinions will rub off into their review of this book. I DNF'd this. I couldn't bring myself to finish it. A couple of different reasons why. So I really like Prince Harry, and I stand by all the decisions that he's made in terms of leaving the royal family, in terms of protecting his wife and his kids, in terms of like standing up to institutionalised racism. Don't think you could disagree with that. However, I think that this book, certainly what I read, it just didn't come across the best. Now, Simon read this book in its entirety. He has finished it now, and I haven't got his final thoughts on it. We're going to discuss that later on today. But I think that he enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than me. He finished it, so obviously he did. But I think that the second half of the book is really where we get a lot of self-reflection, and where we really get to see a change in Prince Harry. But the bits that I just couldn't abide was it tried to make it like everything was a drama, and I just really don't like that. It's not something that I like when it's a fiction book, never mind a non-fiction book. I read a memoir last year that did something similar, that tried to make it like dramatic AF, and I really can't go that. I want to connect to the person, and I want to know genuinely and honestly what their life was like, and I want to, you know, find something there that we can relate on and have a wee bit of empathy and further understanding for that person. And I just felt like I really couldn't get that with this book. Whether that would have changed for the second half for me remains to be seen, but I just couldn't bring myself to continue. And the chapters in this book were so short, and I was doing the audio, and the audio is narrated by Prince Harry, and so I was like, oh, that'll be cool, because I find him quite an engaging speaker, so I was like, it'll be fine. But like, it wasn't like him just sitting down and having a conversation with you, I felt, which is what I want for an autobiography. It felt very dramatised and like heavily acted, and I didn't know if that's because like the way he's been directed when he was narrating the audiobook or what, and I do appreciate that the book was ghostwritten, so it's not his actual words, but I didn't like it. It felt over dramatised, I couldn't buy into it, and I checked out basically. The short chapters, some of them were like half a page long, 2 pages long, and so I felt like I was on like chapter 36 or something of the audiobook, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'm flying through this, like I'm going to be finished this shortly. And then I picked up the physical book to see where I was, and I was like this much through it. I was like, no, that is just a personal preference, like that automatically puts me off a book because I feel like it's properly dragging it out. It just wasn't for me. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be for you, but I didn't enjoy it. I stand by my decision to have DNF'd it. I just couldn't connect to him, and so then I felt like I wasn't going to actually get anything out of the book, or I certainly wasn't going to get out of it what I thought I was going to. I feel really sorry for him for everything that's, you know, happened in his life, which was genuinely dramatic. I think he's had a hard time, and I do have a lot of empathy and a lot of understanding for him in real life, but this book just made him come off like a spoiled wee dickhead, and like I really like him, and so I was like, God, he seems like a wee bit of a prick in this. So I just don't know if it's no written the best, in honesty, but it wasn't for me. The next book I want to talk to you about is Lord Olympus, Volume 3 by Rachel Smythe. I read this, so this will count towards my I seriously need to finish this challenge. I was in bed one night with Simon and we were reading, and I just couldn't have the energy or the effort to pick up whatever it was that I was reading at the time. It was maybe Spear, and I saw this just staring at me, and I was like, oh, go on then, cheeky, but fine. So I really enjoyed this next instalment. I feel like this one really helped expand the world a wee bit, because as much as we were getting loads of Hades and Persephone, we were also getting like more time with a lot of other side characters, which I enjoyed, and we were getting sort of feel like time with them on their own, which is something that has only happened like maybe in a flashback where a character has been telling Persephone something, whereas in this one it felt like, you know, they were going it solo, which I really enjoyed. I think that Rachel Smythe continuously handles the themes of sexual assault and rape in here expertly. I had a wee tear with this one, to be honest, and there's only like 2 graphic novels, including this one, that have ever made me emotional in my entire life, so they are done brilliantly. The characters are great, and I already can't wait for volume 4. And then I read Rhapsodic by Laura Thalassa, and I read this as part of a read-along that is being hosted by Ellie from Errol Grey Books. So I've quite a lot to say about this book. What I preface that with saying that I really did enjoy this, but there's some issues that I definitely need to talk about before I start talking about the positive stuff in here. Firstly, there's a character in here, and she is our main character, Callie's best friend, and her name is Temper, and Temper is our POC rep for, well, I was going to say for the series, I can't say for the series, but for the book so far in the series. I think that it is a wee bit of a miss to call your main POC character Temper when it's quite a stereotype that black people are aggressive or, you know, like permanently angry just because they dare voice an opinion. So I think that that was a miss, and I need to say that Temper's POV, no, her POV, rather her dialogue in this really did pull me out of the story on several occasions, because I just don't think it's written very well. Like every other character in here I feel is written well, and like their dialogue and their choices, they feel realistic and they feel true to that character. I feel for Temper, like we didn't really get to know a lot of her character other than she is like the sassy black friend, and that's aggravating. And her dialogue is just really derivative. It's like, bitch this, and you know, fuck that, and hell this, and girl, and you know, like just very stereotypically done. And that did pull me out of it quite a few times, because I'm like, right, okay, like I appreciate that some people absolutely would speak like that, but like, know every sentence, know every word, know every time. Like, absolutely slip it in if you feel like that's a character trait that holds true to your character. You obviously want your characters to be written as authentic as possible, but it was just constant. And I was like, I can't. Like, if she says bitch one more time, like, she would just end her sentences in that way, bitch. Like, or answer the phone, bitch. Like, okay, dial it down a notch. Like, there isn't a need. And that was one of the big issues that I had with this book, which is definitely taken into account when I did my star rating. The other issue that I had, I can't really talk about without spoiling the book. So, spoiler warning for anybody who is planning to read this and doesn't want quite a big plot point to be ruined, alright? Our main character, Callie, makes a deal with the bargainer, and he, although we don't know his age, is a fairy king, so older than Callie anyway. Callie is 15 when they meet, and the bargainer helps her, and then they continue to have like a, I don't know what to say a relationship, because it isn't a relationship. They continue to have a friendship throughout the years, but he's essentially a wee bit like a male escort, because she needs to bargain with him every single time for him to spend the time with her. And this is what I have a wee bit of an issue with. See, originally I had a much bigger issue with this because I went into this and I thought it was a YA series. It's no YA, gets a wee bit spicy. We'll talk about that at the good bits. I know, unusual for me. But I had a real big issue with the age difference in the beginning of this book, because Callie is so young. She's 15 and then, you know, she's 16. And although there is no sex or anything untoward or inappropriate happening with her, and I'm going to call him Des, right? I'm going to stop calling him the bargainer. So there's nothing inappropriate happening between the two of them. When she is that young, they are just friends. However, they're flirty, very flirty, and you know, he is very heavily insinuating that he would like to sleep with her, and is very heavily insinuating he would do this and he would do that, and you know, she's like, oh, I love you, and that just made me feel pretty uncomfortable. Now, the legal age of consent in the UK is 16, so even if they did have sex, with Callie being 16, like, in the UK, cool, fine, dandy, you can do that, but it was the age difference that got me. Like, he's a grown-ass man. You know, if it was a 16-year-old having sex with another 16-year-old, fair enough, as a grown-ass woman, I didn't want to read about that, but fine. But it was the age difference that was getting me. And as well, like, most of this book takes place in California, so it jumps forward and back in time, and present day is in California, but back in the day it's on the Isle of Wight. And I can't help but feel that Laura Thalassa only picked the Isle of Wight or anywhere in the UK as her backdrop for their younger scenes, purely because the age of legal consent in the UK is 16. I didn't feel like there is any other reason to have had that portion of the book set here other than to make people feel a wee bit more comfortable that they are potentially shipping this romance. And I just feel like if you're an author, then you should stand by your decisions and, you know, allow people to ship or not ship, determine on what you have written. I feel like to move the location to somewhere where it might make that okay is a bit poor. And again, that's taken into account and reflected in my star rating. Other than those two very big negatives, I need to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I am going to continue on with the series. And it's really weird to say how much I enjoyed this book after just talking about those issues. But see, because it jumps forward and backwards in time, I feel like all of the issues that I had with the age gap and stuff like that was for the younger sections of the book, and they are just like wee fleeting moments, whereas most of the book is present day. And so I feel like that didn't hinder my experience reading it too much. But I really enjoyed it. I liked the world building. I feel like the world building wasn't overly done. I feel like we got such a good amount of time just with these two characters, really getting to know them and their relationship, and I think that this first one is definitely more character driven than plot driven. By the end of it, the plot is wrapped up pretty neatly and pretty quickly and pretty conveniently, and I think that if I didn't care about the characters and I didn't enjoy the time that I spent with them as much, that would be a real issue for me. So maybe this isn't the book for somebody who isn't as character driven as I am, but I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. I really did like it. I felt like the magic system was cool. I liked finding out about all the different creatures and stuff that were in this world, and I will be continuing the rest of the series. I flew through this book, and this book potentially could have been a 5-star for me. However, based on the issues that I had with it in terms of the age gap and the POC rep, I've knocked a star off, and it is a 4-star read for me, because I'm all about responsible consumerism, and I didn't feel like it would be fair to take the stuff that I've had issues with into account when it comes to my star rating. So that's what I've decided to do there. This book is steamy. There is spice in here, right, that I wasn't expecting, because like I say, I went into it thinking it was YA, and then when I found that it was for adults, the sort of age difference trope didn't have as much an effect on me, because I appreciate that this is aimed at an adult audience, and so we are, older, and we are not going to be, I guess, impressionable by this book and think that it's fine to be dating much older men. But so the spiciness, I actually didn't mind it too much in this book, and this is probably the first book where it has been quite steamy that I've been like, actually, like, this is fine, and I haven't been like, oh, eye rolls, right? And I think there's a couple of different reasons. Laura Thalassa really makes you care about these two characters individually, so when they finally get brought together, like, you ship them, which is sometimes my issue with books that get a bit steamy, is that you haven't really had that time to get to know them individually, so I don't really care about them as a couple. Also, like, there's a lot of tension built throughout the book, and there's a lot of unresolved emotional issues between the two of them as well, and like, they're really good at communicating with each other. Not to begin with, but like, as the book goes on, the more that they talk to each other and the more that they are starting to trust each other and open up to each other a wee bit more, there's some like really good communication in here. And so I was like, yes, because how many times like are there miscommunication tropes, or like couples who are just absolutely shite at talking to each other, and I felt like they were really good at it in here, like sometimes brutally honest to each other and their feelings, and great, I loved it. And so by the time that they eventually did sleep together in this book, like, I fully shipped them, and I was like, yes, go on yourselves, like, go get some, because yous deserve it, I'm buzzing for yous. And also, Laura Thalassa uses grown-up words, which I immensely appreciate. It's my gripe on the channel all the time that when it comes to a sex scene in a book, I hate all the ridiculous euphemisms about female pleasure. Like, it is honestly, I know I rant about it all the time, and I'm sorry to like force another one on yous, but like, female pleasure's grand. Like, there's no need to be shy about it or like euphemisms about it, like as if it's something that you can't talk about or something that can't be encouraged. And it really fucks me off. And I get that sometimes in YA books, like, obviously because they're target audience, you can't just like spell it out in black and white, but like, you have it be a fade to black scene, didn't like dumb it down, or like, our world exploded. Like, no, come on, like, use real words. And Laura Thalassa did, and I was so buzzing. Like, we're talking about clits, we're talking about orgasms, like, we're talking about coming, like, we're talking about female desire, and I am here for it, let me tell you. Like, I was so buzzing, I loved it. It was absolutely great, and I'm excited to pick up the next one in the series. I'm hoping that the issues I had with this first one are now going to continue, but we'll see. So that is everything that I have been reading. Hopefully you're enjoying everything that you're reading at the moment. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!